By the end of this video, you're gonna know exactly what it means to be a super empath. 10 specific traits that separate the empowered super empath from your typical untreated codependent empath. There is a big difference. Let's dive right in. Hi friends, welcome to my channel. If it's your first time here, my name is Tamie M. Joyce. I'm the founder of Tamie M Coaching and the creator of the Freedom class and the Ascension class. Please take a second to say hello and introduce yourself in the comment section below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video. So let's talk about what it means to be a super empath. To begin with, super empaths are fully empowered, highly empathic, self-aware, soul-aligned humans who have done their work. And as such, they're living from a place of freedom, sovereignty, purpose, passion, and fulfillment. They're living out their divine mission, their calling, from a place of absolute courage, strength, and integrity. They're highly intuitive, visionary leaders, truth seekers, and truth speakers. They have the ability to transmute negative energy as well as pick up on and accurately read the emotional energy and intent of others. Super empaths are the strongest of empaths, which is what makes them so attractive and magnetic, in addition to being challenging for the destructive narcissist. What differentiates a super empath from a regular, untreated codependent empath is their inner strength, their high sense of self-worth and self-esteem, and solid connection to their core identity. They know exactly who they are and who they are not, which naturally makes them harder for the narcissist to mess with. And as you can imagine, this can be quite problematic for people who land on the spectrum of destructive narcissism. Regardless, if they aren't triggered and or intimidated right out of the gate, narcissists sometimes enjoy the challenge a super empath offers, initially anyway. Either way, the dynamic quickly becomes problematic for the narcissist, frankly, because the super empath can't be fooled for long and has a tendency to stand their ground with emotional manipulators and toxic bullies. In other words, they don't just roll over when the games begin. A super empath doesn't tolerate abuse or mistreatment like an untreated codependent empath will. Moreover, they've evolved to the point of being able to use their high empathy nature as it was originally intended, as a superpower, in service of themselves as well as others, and for the good of humanity. Whether others recognize that personal power that a super empath has is of no consequence to them. Like I said, they know exactly who they are. They aren't reliant on external sources for validation or approval. Super empaths have a very strong core identity that can withstand even the toughest manipulators. And it's this core identity that makes them the narcissist's biggest nemesis, as well as their most alluring and unattainable target. A super empath's core identity keeps them true to themselves. If a narcissist tries to gaslight a super empath, attempt to make them doubt who they are, guilt, blame, or shame them for something they didn't do, or attempts to intimidate the super empath in an effort to make themselves look or feel superior, the super empath will remain completely unfazed and unflappable. They are very clear when it comes to their values, their morals, and beliefs. And when someone tries to shift blame onto them by gaslighting them, a super empath will not stand for it. Super empaths are natural-born leaders and healers who are deeply connected to their intuition through their highest selves. They have the ability to read other people's minds, even from a distance. And that's precisely why you can't easily manipulate or deceive a super empath. They know what you're thinking, what you're feeling, and what you're up to. Now, with all of that said, let's dive into 10 specific traits of a super empath. Number 1, super empaths love themselves for real. They carry a genuine sense of self-love, self-worth, and self-esteem. And this is largely because they've done their work. Unlike your average untreated codependent empath, a super empath doesn't only have empathy for others, they also have empathy for themselves. They practice extreme self-care, and they do so unapologetically. Again, they have deep empathy, compassion, acceptance, and understanding. In other words, deep love for themselves as well as for others. Number 2, super empaths are able to set healthy limits and boundaries with confidence and ease. They don't allow others to exploit them, siphon their vital life force energy, and they certainly don't abandon themselves. So they aren't afraid of being abandoned. They understand that having the ability to set boundaries as needed is a form of self-love and self-care, vital to living a good life. Again, they've done and continue to do their work. They've evolved out of codependent thinking and behaving and into a place of maintaining high self-worth and high standards. And they take care of themselves accordingly. Number 3, they're highly intuitive. They see, feel, and notice things that others completely overlook. They have a strong knower, if you will. They know just because they know. And they don't doubt, second guess, or question themselves. And their deep intuitive knowing, their inner knowing, they don't question that either. Furthermore, they often pick up on and know things others would really prefer they didn't know. Like all empaths, they feel everything much more deeply and intensely than your average human does. Number 4, they're fiercely independent and capable of being interdependent. Although they enjoy the company of others and they'll likely love you more than anyone, they aren't afraid to be alone. They can entertain themselves, dine out, shop, travel, live, and simply be alone, quite happily and comfortably. And because of this fiercely independent nature of theirs, they aren't easily influenced by others. Remember, the super empath is not a regular codependent empath, and therefore isn't driven by the compulsion to fix, save, or otherwise rescue people in order to shore up their own self-esteem. Now, although they may want you, they do not need you. More than anything, though, they will not enable you. Number 5, super empaths are honest and direct, one could say to a fault. And naturally, this can be a problem, in particular with destructive narcissists or otherwise unhealed or unconscious people. Simply because people in general have become so accustomed to others being indirect and phony that clear and direct communication is often perceived negatively. Now let's face it, the truth can make denial-laden enablers quite uncomfortable, to say the least. Unlike other codependent empaths, the super empath actually has what it takes to hold the narcissist accountable for their toxic behavior and can handle whatever backlash ensues as a result. Why? Well, because super empaths are made of ridiculously strong stuff, and narcissists are no match for the pure personal and spiritual power that a super empath carries. Again, they know exactly who they are. They can feel underlying contempt, disdain, ill will, and envy, no matter how well hidden. Although they may choose to give you some grace and the benefit of the doubt, they have a limit to how much they'll be willing to tolerate. And once that limit is met, it'll be over. When they're done, they are done. Now, comment below and tell me whether or not this resonates with you. Let me know in the comments section below. And if you'd like to learn more about the possibility of working with me in one of my coaching programs, there's a link in the description below this video where you can apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team. And there's also a brand new free gift section in the description below this video, so be sure to avail yourself of that as well. Number 6, super empaths are deeply emotionally aware. They have a high level of emotional intelligence and they pick up on patterns that others don't see. As such, they are astute observers and discerners of human energy, intent, attitudes, and behavior. So don't kid yourself, the super empath doesn't miss a thing. Number 7, super empaths take radical responsibility for themselves and the quality of their lives. Although they may have been victimized earlier in life, they are nobody's victim. While the untreated codependent empath may still be asking questions like, why is this happening to me? The super empath understands that life is reflecting back to them what they carry subconsciously, and therefore they muster the courage and strength to look within and ask better questions. Like, for example, what's going on inside of me that, or what remains unhealed inside of me that is a match to this experience or this person? What work do I still need to do to evolve beyond this and to my next level? Again, they take radical responsibility for themselves and the quality of their lives by asking the tough questions. Number 8, the mirror effect. Super empaths operate as a mirror to those who are still below the veil of consciousness, like untreated codependents, as well as destructive narcissists. They reflect back to deeply unconscious and toxic people their own disowned shadow self, which is why they can be so triggering for some of the humans. They can trigger you without even opening their mouth. They've been triggering people their whole lives. The more empowered they become, the more triggering they are. They're not only used to it, they're absolutely clear what it is and what is not their stuff. And they don't let anyone else's stuff land on them. They know full well it's not theirs. Number 8, super empaths can be intimidating, but aren't easily intimidated. They have a very strong presence, and others, especially insecure people, are often intimidated by them. Again, they know themselves. They are very self-aware. They know their strengths as well as their weaknesses, and they feel good in their own skin. This kind of self-confidence can be unnerving for people who do not embody the same. No matter what they've lived through and survived, which is usually more than most can fathom or imagine, super empaths don't see themselves as powerless victims. They're different. They aren't afraid to stand their ground or even push back if necessary. And this brand of strength, courage, confidence, and personal power is something that makes less empowered or less evolved humans very uncomfortable. Number 9, super empaths are immune to the smear campaign. Now, while they may still feel it to some degree, in the sense that they know full well when it's going on, smearing and scapegoating a super empath will have little to no effect and certainly no power or influence over them. Now, that said, they're likely to drop you like a hot rock and without a second thought the moment they realize they're being smeared. The thing is, they've been on the receiving end of so much of this kind of nonsense throughout their lives that they fully have no time for it. And they certainly aren't going to spend any of their vital life force energy worrying about it. They just remove themselves. Like I said, the super empath has quite literally healed and overcome more than most can fathom or imagine. So much so that the toxic gossip and smear campaign narcissistic types run with doesn't sway or affect them in the slightest. They've ascended beyond that nonsense and they're busy doing their purpose work. So they don't spend much time, if any, worrying about what others might be thinking or saying. Again, they know who they are. They know what they've done. They know what they haven't done. They fully love and accept themselves, flaws and all. And as such, they're quite able to rise above the nonsense. So smear all you want. The super empath couldn't care less. They know who they are, as I said, and now they know who you are. And that's plenty good enough for them. And on that note, I'm going to call it a wrap. But before I go, you should know that the Ascension class is open for enrollment. Now, this is for you if you're ready and able to invest in yourself, you're ready to shift your identity, master the law of attraction, heal your relationship with money, and put a full stop end to the limiting beliefs and self-sabotaging behaviors that are holding you back and preventing you from living your best life. If you're ready to reinvent yourself from the inside out, create your dream life by design, and finally become the you were always meant to be, click the link in the description below this video to apply to see if you qualify for a free one-on-one consultation with either myself or a member of my team.